This is the Tom Studio Pocket Pen V2, and as the name suggests, it is a very compact pen with a design that's largely dominated by this cap. The differences between the V1 and V2 are quite subtle, with the most significant being that the V2 is about 12 millimeters shorter. The pen is primarily made out of anodized aluminum, and it's available in a variety of colors. Today I have it in black. The top of the cap is circular in shape and flat, but if you take a look at the profile of the cap, you'll actually see that there are a series of facets. They act as a subtle roll stop, and they are fairly effective as long as you don't have a significant incline. The cap is straight all the way down, and it's free of any brand markings, but there is a little hole right there, and that acts as a pressure release so that you don't have burping when you pull the cap off. Removing the cap reveals a fully exposed nib. I believe this one is made by Bock. It's available in a variety of tipping sizes as well as materials. Today I have a flexible extra fine, which is made out of titanium. In the middle of the nib, we can see that it is branded Tom Studio. And on the back, we can see a black plastic feed. The grip section is fairly simple in shape. It just gradually increases in thickness until it reaches the barrel. But it also has a series of micro grooves, and I'll try to overlay an image of it here so you can see it in more detail. It doesn't feel like any texture in the hand, but it provides exceptional grip, especially for an anodized aluminum pen. The barrel is straight, and then it has a flare up to 2 O-rings, which are there to secure the cap, and then a flare back down to the remainder of the barrel. The bottom of the barrel is rounded, and it has a slight recess. In the hand, the pen is lightweight, extremely compact, and not really suitable to use for either short notes or long writing sessions. But I can get away with using this for quick tally marks. And the cap does post securely right onto those O-rings. It transforms the pen into a full-size fountain pen. It has nice heft with a center of gravity just about at the crook of my hand. In terms of size comparisons, here's the Tom Studio Pocket Pen, a typical Pilot G2 rollerball pen, and your standard Sharpie. Before we disassemble the Tom Studio Pocket Pen, I want to take a moment here to compare it with a few other pocket-sized fountain pens. First up, I have the Kaweco Sport, and here I have it in brass. This is one of the most popular pocket-sized fountain pens on the market today. And you can see in its cap form, it is a bit longer than the Tom Studio Pocket Pen, and also it has quite a bit more barrel exposed compared to the Tom Studio. Next up, I have a pocket pen from Hongdian. This is the M2. This one is also anodized aluminum, and I have it here in black, but it's available in a variety of other colors. And you can also get this one in brass, similar to the Kaweco Sport. Unlike either of these other pens, this one does come with a clip pre-installed, and we can see it is a bit longer than the Tom Studio in the cap form, and also it has a bit more barrel exposed compared to the Tom Studio. And to round things off, I have the Pilot E95S. This is the only pocket-sized fountain pen that Pilot makes, and it's also their least expensive pen with a gold nib. We can see in its cap form it is the longest of the pens on the table today, and it is also the second one with an included clip. Let's take a look at these pens with their caps removed. The cap on the Tom Studio Pocket Pen pulls off, as does the E95S. The other two unscrew. And in the uncapped form, we can see that the Tom Studio Pocket Pen is the shortest of the pens on the table, with the E95S being the longest. In terms of nibs, they're all fully exposed, except for the E95S. That one is an inlaid nib. In terms of nib materials, the E95S is the only one with a gold nib. The Hongdian and Kaweco are both stainless steel. And the Tom Studio I have here in a titanium nib, but it's available in steel as well. In terms of grip sections, the E95S just tapers back. The Hongdian has a flare-up followed by a taper to threads. The Tom Studio just gradually increases towards the barrel. And the Kaweco has an hourglass-shaped grip section. Let's take a look at these pens with their caps posted. All caps post deeply and securely, and in the posted form, the Tom Studio Pocket Pen is now the longest of the bunch. No tools are required to disassemble Tom Studio Pocket Pen, but you might find gripping materials are useful to have. The cap pulls off, and if we take a look inside, we'll see there is a cap liner that runs the entire length. I haven't found an easy way to disassemble it, so for regular cleaning and maintenance, I just run this under warm water. If I see really stubborn ink stains, I might also soak it with a little bit of mild detergent. In terms of the pen itself, you can unscrew the grip section. That's it for the barrel. And then for the nib and feed, you can grab them with your gripping materials and give it a counterclockwise turn. Soon, those will come out of the grip section. And then we can see they are held in place in this nib collar. If you grab the shoulders of the nib, you should be able to pull them straight out. And then the nib and feed can separate just like that. At this point, the pen is fully disassembled. In order to reassemble, I'm going to start with the nib collar and the feed. If we take a look at the front of the nib collar, we'll see that there is a crescent shape that's in there. The nib should sit on the outside portion of that crescent shape, so I'm going to put this nib feed just straight down into it. And then we'll grab our nib, line it up to the top, and then at the bottom, I like to check to make sure that the shoulders of the feed line up with the shoulders of the nib. We'll screw that into our grip section, followed by our barrel, and lastly our cap. At this point, we're ready to ink up. Inking up the Tom Studio Pocket Pen, today I decided not to match the black color of the pen, but go with something a little more fun. This is Waterman Tender Purple. To start things off, let's take the cap off the pen and the grip section. We'll take the cap off the bottle of ink, grab our syringe, draw up some ink, and insert it into our empty International Short cartridge, and just fill that up. That should be plenty of ink. Empty the rest into the bottle and set that aside. We'll insert the cartridge into the back of the grip section, reattach the barrel and the cap. I'm going to set this aside for a few minutes and then we'll be ready to write. Okay, writing with the Tom Studio Pocket Pen. Cap pulls off and I am going to post it. And today we're writing with a titanium extra fine flexible nib. And it is a beautifully tuned nib. Without any pressure, this almost provides a needlepoint-like tipping size, and it's surprisingly smooth and wet considering how thin that line is. It does provide a little bit of flex as well, which we'll see in just a second. The ink that we're using today is from Waterman. And it's called Tender Purple. For flex, I'm going to slightly turn the page. Here's no pressure. Adding a little bit of pressure. We got some railroading there. Let me go a little slower. You can see if you go slowly, you can get a bit of line variation, but also if you go too fast, you'll quickly railroad. In terms of reverse writing, a little bit more toothy. I think you get a little bit of a thinner line too, and the feed mostly kept up. Personally, I don't like using this one for reverse writing because the right way up, it honestly provides a very thin line already. And of course, you can apply a little bit of extra pressure to get some line variation. So what do I think of the Tom Studio Pocket Pen? I love many aspects of this pen. I'm a huge fan of the compact form factor. That makes it a great travel companion, and this one can easily disappear in your pocket. I also love the minimalist design aesthetic. It looks professional, industrial, but also not boring. And I really like that they offer this in many different colors so you can mix and match it with your favorite ink. I also love the capping experience. It simply pulls right off and pushes to post, so it is a great pen for a quick note. And the O-rings at the bottom really do serve double duty. It provides a nice, secure posting experience and a really exceptional seal. I've left this pen capped for over a month, uncapped it, and it wrote right away, which is really an extraordinary feat that many fountain pens struggle with. And speaking of that cap, I love the subtle facets that were applied. They are a functional roll stop, provided you don't have much of an incline. And when you do uncap this pen, you're greeted with a really nice grip section. I'm a huge fan of the small micro grooves that were applied to the grip and the barrel. When I first got this pen, I almost needed to do a double take because the texture reminds me a bit of rubber, but sure enough, it is made out of metal. And when you do uncap the pen, you are greeted with a very well-tuned nib. It is surprisingly smooth and wet considering its thin tipping size. And with those cut out shoulders, it provides you a little bit of line variation so you can have some flair to your writing. But I do see areas for improvement with this pen, and the nib is one of them. I find that the feed doesn't quite keep up with the flexibility of this nib, and I think it would have been nice if Tom Studio provided this pen with an ebonite feed. That would provide a little bit more ink flow and maybe prevent it from railroading so much. I also have an issue with the overall proportion of this pen. I think that it would be nice if a little more barrel was exposed because it can be hard to grip onto this little ledge. And when you do pull off the cap, you're left holding the pen at the very end, which leaves me a little bit uneasy. I feel like I might drop this pen and damage the nib. I think it would have been nice instead if Tom Studio took a look at the Kaweco Sport and tried to match the amount of exposed barrel here. And speaking of the Kaweco Sport, I do find the facets a little more practical and functional as a roll stop compared to the Tom Studio, which has a tendency to roll away. I also like that Kaweco offers their pen with an optional clip. That isn't something that I can say about the Tom Studio Pocket Pen, and I think that's a little bit of a miss. And then lastly, and honestly, just a nitpick, I think that it would be nice if there was a flare-up at the tip of this grip section. Personally, I find it perfectly comfortable, but I know there are many people whose fingers tend to wander towards the nib. This one will not prevent you from going over the grip section and possibly having some inky fingers. But overall, I'm a big fan of this pen. I think it is a charming pocket pen that's very functional and practical, a great travel companion, and one that can easily transform into a full-size writing experience. And that just leaves me to say, thank you for watching.